Good morning. Welcome to church. I am Jesse Lee Peterson. Thank you so much for being with me. You can go to the YouTube chat line and get involved here. Whatever your questions or comments might be, I can respond to them, all right? And good morning to everybody here again. How y'all? Did everybody have a good independence celebration? I had some black callers on my radio show who said they don't celebrate independence. Independent from what? Just a crazy. Well, I'm glad to see everybody. Today I want to, on this past Monday, July 3rd, I was on Tucker Carlson TV show on the Fox News channel. Did anybody see that? Yeah. Oh, good. A lot of people saw it. And I brought up a couple things of why black Americans are not doing well in this country. Not all, but most. This is the wrong cup. I don't want this cup.
I didn't see yours.
It's on my desk. Take this one back. This reminds me of Mama Dearest. Remember that movie?
I'll get the other one.
Anybody remember Mama Dearest? Yeah. Was it Betty Davis? Betty Davis, according to the movie, was a mean mama, right? And she wanted everything to be all perfect. And she was mean to her daughter, and according to the movie. And Betty Davis liked to hang her clothes on non-wire hangers. And so one day her daughter or the maid or somebody hung them on hangers. And she looked in the closet and saw her clothes on a hanger. She's like, "Oh, hang my clothes on hangers." And she just went, oh, snatching everything. So when I was saying about the water in the wrong cup, it reminded me of that. Oh, Joan Crawford. Yeah, one of those. Both of those ladies were excellent actresses. They were so good. They don't make them like that anymore. Betty Davis and Joan Crawford. They were like really, really good actresses. Do you remember them?
I've never seen those.
You have never seen those people?
I'm a 90s kid.
You were born in the 90s?
Yes.
Dang, that was like yesterday. Did they have landlines when you were born?
Yes, they did. It was in the 1800s.
Can you imagine when I was born? We didn't have TVs. I don't know if they were still made. Did they make TVs in 49? Yeah. What year was TV born?
In the 48 and a half.
48?
I was just kidding.
Oh.
TVs are in the 20s.
Oh, okay, 20s.
But they weren't popular.
Oh, okay. Well, we only got them when I became almost 18. But anyway, so on Tucker show, I said that there is no racism, and there has never been racism. It has never existed, amongst other things. And so all week, it's been like one of the primary topics that people have been tweeted about, and different websites have written about it. And I've gotten phone calls and emails and letters and discussions about it. And so I wanted to talk about that today, and also deal with what's on your mind as well. But I want to talk about if racism exists or not. And then we got some comments that James is going to read to you here in a minute, where people are asking me questions about it or making statements about it. But first, let me ask, how many of you believe that racism does not exist and never has? Let me see again. Oh, okay. And then the rest of you believe that it does exist, right? Those who did not raise your hand, you believe that it does exist. Is that right? No, yes. You don't want to say nothing? Okay, so let me go to Ed. Ed, you believe that racism does exist?
No, I'm not clear on the argument, one way or the other, right? I mean, so that I find myself easily swayed one direction or another by depending on what I read. Before
I said it does not exist, what were you thinking?
I would think that it does exist.
You were thinking.
When I see, for example, the most common type of thing you see on a website or something is how there were lynch mobs, right, in the South in the 20s, et cetera. So I see something like that, I go, you know, it's hard for me to say, no, it doesn't exist. Now,
Right.
I do remember listening to your point of view that it isn't race that causes people to react, it's some other factor.
Right.
And yet at the same time, I participated in discussions when I was younger. People didn't like someone because of the color of their skin. I did hear that plenty of times.
And they say, I don't like them because they're black.
I would often hear that.
Okay.
Or, you know, or take some action because they're black. Or you see it among, for example, a very common thing in certain countries. I used to live in Europe, and I used to live in Italy. And the southern and northern Italians are as much against each other as anyone else would ever.
Is that racism?
Well, you know what? They look the same, you know, except that they'll make up reasons that the other one looks different. One will be
Right.
lighter skin, the other one will be the mustachio darker skin, one will be taller, one will be shorter, one has a funny accent, one doesn't. You know, those kinds of things are brought up as examples of why the southerner, for example, is inferior to the northerner.
But they didn't call it racism, though.
They don't call it that, no. You don't
Yeah.
really hear, what they'll call racism is what they see in the U.S. about our TV. They'll call us racist, and then
Right.
you have to remind them that they have a bigger problem.
Is there anywhere else in the world where any other race is called racist other than whites?
Yeah, the Asians.
The Asians are called racist,
The Asians between the Japanese, Koreans, Chinese, South
but they're the
South
same
Asians.
people.
And not to them.
Are they the
don't
same
think so.
people? They look alike. Don't they look alike?
They spend a lot of time. They
So
spend a lot of
do the
time talking
Japanese
about.
say to the Chinese, "You are racist"?
Well, for example, I know that those different countries like Koreans, Chinese, and Japanese, they are able to differentiate one from the other very quickly. They know
Right.
by looking at a person who's Japanese and who's Korean.
Right, and that's how I
I
am with
can't.
black people. When I look at black people, I can tell this black is not necessarily that black.
There you go.
But when I look at white people, they all look the same. I can't tell the Jews, though. Because the Jews look like the whites.
You can or you can't?
I cannot, unless they have a big
You
nose.
knew I was half Jewish.
Only because you told me.
You asked me.
I did. I think I may have been playing around.
You called it.
Oh, okay. It was a guess.
So that I have difficulty in maintaining a position because I'll listen to somebody and go, that makes sense too. So I don't find myself.
So now you're not sure if racism is, and we need to have this
At least I'm not
discussion.
sure. At least I'm not sure.
The reason I want to have it too, because it needs to be talked about.
Right.
And for a long time, black people have been saying, we want to discuss racism, but white people won't. All right? And white people want to, but black people want them to admit something, say something that's not true. So I'm glad we're finally having it. And that we're finally having it. So you're not sure now
Right.
if racism exists or not.
Right, right.
And so,
But I'm open, as I said, I'm open to the discussion about it may not exist, right? I mean, I've
and
heard
why
you.
you're open to that?
Well, I've heard you before, and you make a really eloquent case for it. And
Oh, okay.
furthermore, a lot of the things that I have heard called racism are, in fact, complete lies.
Yeah.
I have seen that happen, and I have seen racism used as an excuse when it was never the case.
Right.
I myself have been accused of, it's funny, people look at me, they don't realize I'm actually of a Hispanic background. How can a guy with blue eyes and light skin with a name like Edward, right, be Hispanic, right? And yet, when I speak in Spanish, I have been accused of being racist because I spoke in Spanish to someone. You're not
Wow.
supposed to do that in corporate America these days.
Nowadays, if you're white and you wear black hair, you're racist. What's the word for it? What's that word? What?
Cultural appropriation.
You're cultural
Oh
appropriating.
yeah, I've heard that one. If a kid wears it, yeah.
So you can't wear black hair now, but black
What do you mean black hair?
Black style here.
black style hair.
Oh, I thought you meant dark hair. I would love to have dark hair.
But the black people can wear your hair. They're still wearing the straight hair, but you can't
Well, they can't go like
appropriate
this
them. Yeah. Brendan, do you believe racism? You don't believe race. I mean, you do believe racism exists.
Yes,
And why do you believe it exists?
because the definition that I understand racism to be is discrimination based on someone's race. And I grew up in the South where black people were not allowed to go to white schools. And when I was in about the 3rd grade, then they integrated the schools, which is a word you never hear anymore. But they
Right.
basically closed down the black school and moved all the black kids to the white school, and twice as many kids had to go to class in one school because they wanted them integrated. And so that is my experience, and that's what I know, is that there were a lot of things like that. Black people couldn't get dressed in a white person's dressing room or drink out of a water fountain or do a lot of stuff. And so that was all based on their race.
Did you know that black people didn't want to go to white schools? It was the government and the so-called civil rights leaders who forced that upon white people in order for them to gain power and wealth. They started that whole mess. Black people were not sitting around thinking, oh, Lord, I wish I could go to a white school. They were going to their own schools and being quite educated, going off to black colleges and being very satisfied.
Right.
They did not want to, the people didn't want to. It wasn't their idea. They were
I'm very aware
influenced.
of that, yes. My dad had a grocery store in the black part of town.
Yeah.
And I played with the black children.
Yeah.
And thought that everything was hunky-dory. They invited me to their home to eat and made a birthday cake for me, and they were just my playmates.
Yeah.
And when they showed up at school, they were as miserable as we were because they'd
Yes.
been yanked out of their school. It was crowded, it was hot, they didn't have their teachers. They were not happy. That's
Nope.
totally true, but
And
they
then the
did.
white people rejected it because they were feeling imposed upon.
Right.
And you can't make anybody love you. You have to love one another voluntarily. And they were trying to make the white people accept the blacks and make the blacks accept the whites, and they both sides rejected it.
Right.
Because you can't make someone love one another. And that wasn't the idea of the people, it was the idea of the government and the race hustler leaders.
I don't disagree with that, but I will also say that I think that those leaders believed that there were more opportunities for whites than were blacks.
No, they didn't.
Okay.
Because if that's the case, why did we have so many black people who were graduating from all black schools, playing sports and doing everything and doing very well? And when they would go out and compete, they were naturally competing because they didn't have all this race stuff going on until the leaders started the mess. And so many people in my family went off to college and came back, and they were very well educated. And I never heard them complain that they couldn't go to a white university.
Mm-hmm.
They were quite happy at their own schools.
Well, I can't speak for all those people, though. I can only say your experience is that you knew some people that were happy doing what they were doing. There had to be some other people that were not happy because there were a lot of people walking down the street in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, who were following behind Martin Luther King and some of the other people that were there.
They
So
were influenced.
they were influenced.
Yeah.
I will agree with you, they were influenced,
Yeah.
but I still believe that there were instances of discrimination at that point in time, and I think some people still have that mindset, unfortunately.
Are other races racist except for white? Are whites the only ones who are racist? Because that's the only one I ever hear they complain about. I never hear it about other race of people but white folks.
I'm not going to be able to answer that question. I don't.
Have you ever heard of any other group of people being called racist, predominantly being called racist?
Not really.
You never heard of that, right? And why do you think you've never heard of any other group other than white folks?
Because I have a limited experience of the world. I
But you
live
pay
here and I don't pay
attention
attention.
You don't pay attention to the media and what's happening around you?
I don't pay attention to what people talk about in Japan. No, I don't.
Oh.
I don't
Me
read.
neither, not in Japan.
Well, I just picked one.
Only thing I know-
Morocco. You know, I don't pay attention to what people are arguing about in Morocco.
But if it had been going on, you would have heard.
Okay.
But nowhere else in the world I hear except people accusing white people.
Mm-hmm.
And they go into the white people country, and the white people are crazy enough to let them in, and they go in and they take what they have and then they call them racist. It's like having a family member come out to visit for 2 weeks and they take over your home. And then when you say, no, you can't do it, they say, you are mean.
So it's my understanding that Hispanics and blacks don't get along very well either.
Well, right.
Is that true?
Everybody hates somebody.
Okay, so,
Yeah. And so, yes, you're right.
so do they
don't get
not use
along.
the word racist between blacks and Hispanics?
No, they don't use racist.
Okay.
They just say, you hate me, or you're Mexican and you're no good, or you're black and you're no good. They don't say racist.
Okay.
And is that interesting?
It is interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in hearing what you have to say, but
Yeah.
that's my experience, is that I saw what racism, I saw the definition of racism
Right.
in my life.
At least you thought you did.
Okay.
After I'm done with you today, you know. Who else believe it exists? You believe it exists? Why are you looking like that? Do you wait? Do you believe it exists? I only want to talk to the people who believe it exists.
I think, yeah,
Okay.
different races are different.
So
act
tell me
different.
first,
They
do you
think
believe racism exists?
See, the thing is, I can't
No,
say
no,
about
no,
discrimination.
no, no.
Yes,
Okay. You believe racism exists?
yes, I think
And why do you
human
believe
mind
it
does
exists?
categorize. If he's black, he's expected to act certain way. If he's Mexican, he's expected to act certain way. If I'm dealing with a white person, I'm dealing a certain way because I expect the white person is going to be this way. Or I think I can say from my own thing, before I meet a person, because of his skin color, I already know how to approach him or what to expect. I do categorize him.
But
So if I
is
can-
that coming from skin color or knowing the behavior of that group?
Exactly, yeah.
Exactly
Behavior of the group.
Right.
It's like kind of contagious because
So that's
it's not
not
a skin
racism.
color. Because if I see American black, it's different than an African coming from Nigeria or something. You know.
Right.
And
Because of the behavior, right?
yeah, I do
Is
my
that
best
racism?
to. Huh?
Is that racism?
No, it's not. It's I guess.
So give me something you believe it exists. Tell me why.
Okay, a certain group of people.
But that's behavior. You repeat yourself.
Right, but that behavior, the difference between these two behavior is also the difference of skin color. So people can be racist, being like, if this group carries the darker skin color, acts this way, and this one a certain way. So if I see a light skin color, I expect them to act that way. Or
But that's not racism, though. They have already displayed to you how they're going to act. It's like with your family member. If you know you have a cousin who is out of control, and then this cousin is not out of control, and you come together for a family reunion, you're going to want to sit with the family that's not out of control, right?
right,
Because you know this family is out of control.
right.
Is that racism?
No.
So why would this have to be racism then?
Because no, I just think sometimes when they're different, they're distinguished by their act, they're also distinguished by their skin color. So you assume that if this skin color, then must be acting this way. So
Oh, I see.
If you don't know.
Why?
if,
The skin color has nothing to do with it. Yeah, like, it's like people.
Right, 'cause everybody, I interviewed a black guy on my TV show, and so prior to the days before he came, we were deciding if he's gonna have a gun or not, because he was black. Come back. I want him, he's gonna say something. And so, but it was a joke, but it was due to the behavior of that group of people that we were concerned, but nothing to do with the color. And in the good old days when boys were boys, most Americans didn't see black people that way because black people led the way in the way to act and the way to treat one another and the way to live. They had a high standard of respect for themselves and others. They were not judged for being angry and loud and out of control. That just came after the civil rights movement. Isn't that right, Brenda? Yeah, they were not judged that way. So that came later. And so if it was racism, why was it that blacks were not judged that way beforehand? They were respected for their morality. Yes, you are.
Well, I was just saying, going off of what he said, what is it as if you don't know what their behavior is like and you're just assuming that their behavior is a certain way, and you look at him and he's dark skinned, you're like, oh, he's going to behave a certain way, but then you see the light skin, you're like, oh, he might not.
A light-skinned black or a light-skinned
or
person?
light-skinned black, or another person. But if you see a dark skin, you're just assuming that they're going to act how they're going to act, or whatever the case is, and you see a different one. What was that? It's still judging.
But it's not racism, though.
But isn't
you said what it was? It's judging.
But I think, are people using racism in place of hatred or judgment?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So they think that they're using this word what they really mean is hatred or judgment, but they're saying racism.
Yes. Oh. Isn't that something? Absolutely, absolutely. That's deep. Yes. Someone from the net.
Yeah, Sarah P.
Online.
asks, if it's a spiritual battle about good and evil, why do some use racial slurs?
What's a racial slur?
Like the N-word.
Oh.
Stuff like that.
It's the same reason he just mentioned. It's hatred. When you're just think about your own self. This is why it's so important to get to know yourself. When you're angry at, let's say, a married couple, I would hate to hear what Ed called Brenda when he get mad at her.
No. Doesn't happen.
Or I hate to hear what Brenda called Ed when she get mad at him. Because what happens the moment you become angry, or if you have anger, you fall away from consciousness. You fall away from the light. You fall away from seeing reality. And that's why once the anger passes, you're back into reality and you see that this is a good person. This is not the person I was just hating in my darkness. It's the same person, but you got angry and you see that person differently. That's all that it is. But the children of the lie invented a word called racism, and in your fallen state, you believe the children of the lie. And that's why we've never been able to get past this, because we're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. It has never existed. But if you knew it was good and evil, we can show them how to forgive so we can overcome the problem. It's just that simple. That's why it's so important to know yourself. And in your fallen state, you call everybody all kinds of names. And you know it. And you can be as holy as they come. Matter of fact, you can be holding the Bible in your hand and cussing somebody out. And then you say, all in the name of Jesus. Because you're in a fallen state. You're angry. You're of your father, the devil. It doesn't exist. It really has never existed. Go ahead, James.
This person says, it exists in the sense that people do prejudge people. Now, from my understanding, that's not evil if it's just discerning, but evil when you're hating.
Well, no, it doesn't exist just because you prejudge. What it is, any prejudger is playing God. That's still your problem and not the person you're judging. Because you're being influenced by your father, the devil, and you can look at someone and tell you, oh, look at that person, they hate me, or that's a bad person. And then you get to know the person, nothing like what you said, what your father told you. That's why it's wrong to assume, and it's wrong to prejudge, because both ways you're playing God. Nah.
The same person asked, if racism doesn't exist, does that mean misogyny doesn't exist as well?
Right. 100% yes. And the reason they created that word, because liberal women who hate God don't want to hear the truth about themselves. And so they created a word to put fear in you so you don't tell the truth. That's all it is. And it's interesting, too, the children of the devil, when they want to stay in hell, they don't want any truth, they don't want any light, and so they create a world, an environment, where they get no truth. If it's me putting God out of the public square, putting him out of the home, putting him out of everywhere, they don't want to hear it, so they try to shut you down. They call you names, they make it, and they create laws and everything to keep you from telling them the truth. They call you hater, all kinds of names. But if you love what's right more than anything else, you wouldn't fall for it. Yes?
Sarah P. is following up, but why bother using racial terms? Why not just say A-word or jerk? Why make it racial if it's not racial?
Because that's what the children of the lie do, to intimidate you and control you. That's why they do it. They want to control you. And if you notice, not all, but most white people and black people are controlled by this word called racist. The moment they hear the blacks going into a hypnotic trance and the white people head for the hills. I literally had a guy tell me, a white man tell me, he would rather be known as a pedophile than to be known as a racist. Isn't that something? That's the kind of power that this country has given over to the children of the lie. Even when they call men misogynists, they try to take power and mess up your life because they don't want to hear the truth. Go ahead.
You misunderstood her question. She wasn't saying why call it racist. She's saying why use racial terms like N-word or cracker or whatever.
Only angry people use those words. Unless you use them just to play around. Now, we play around with that word more now in the office than ever. It's so amazing that James used the N-word like it's just nothing. And then we're so silly, we're laughing with him. And he's a white man. But angry people use those words. People who are good don't use those words because they're not trying to hurt you. They're not trying to put fear in you. This guy, a friend of mine was telling me that not AZ, what's the rapper name?
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z. Beyonce's husband. Beyonce's husband, I haven't seen any of this yet, so I'm kind of paraphrasing what he told me, that he has a new movie or something coming out, or a book or something, and he using OJ as one of the examples of racism, how the white people would turn on you if you go into their world, because a lot of black sports people and blacks who get money and educated, they move into the white world. And he's trying to make the point that, see what they did to OJ, how the white people turned on him once he did something they like, and this is supposed to prove that racism exists. Jay-Z, of all people, who pretty much made his money off drug or dealing or doing something with drugs. Was he a drug dealer? Yeah, a drug dealer, right? Selling the black folks drugs, and he got famous, and now they're making him a hero. Isn't that crazy? That's the children of the lie. But we got to stop falling for it. There's something wrong with children of God falling for it. There's something wrong with this. So we got to deal with it. Yes, sir.
Going back to the segregation thing, the worst thing about integration and desegregation is that the best people in the black hood leave and go live in white neighborhoods, and you're left with the underclass of black people who needed those positive role models.
Yes.
And now all the positive role models flee, and you're left with just an out-of-control underclass of the not-so-good people.
That's right.
They don't have those, yeah.
Rather than dealing with the real issues, and staying there and dealing with those people who are out of control and building the community and building the family, they run away from it. And then they'll run into the white hood and blame it on the white man.
Yeah, and meanwhile, they could have stayed in the black neighborhood and kept, you know, people in, the smartest ones leave. That's a terrible feature of desegregation.
Absolutely. I saw some more hands. Let me go back there, then I'll come to you. Do you believe racism exists or not?
No, it does not. But
have you always felt that way, or did you?
Actually, just since you've been teaching about this, I realized that I had believed the lie. But
why did you believe it beforehand?
I just took it because that's what I was told. Actually, I grew up in a country where there was just one race, so I never encountered it.
Where was that?
Finland.
Oh, it's just all white people?
Yeah, all white people. Back then when I grew up. Yeah,
that's like paradise on earth, huh?
I never saw I never saw people different race except on TV until I left Finland. But what I was going to say was James was reading why people use those words when they're arguing and calling each other names. When you're in that angry, fallen state, you use whatever word you think would hurt the most.
That's right.
So
that's right. Absolutely, 100%. Yes, Brenda.
That was exactly
I'm sorry.
That's the most powerful word the most hurtful word you can say to a black person is to use a racial slur, because that makes them get madder faster because they've been taught to respond to that more.
Yeah.
You can pick, if you live with a person, if you're married to a person, and you know that they're sensitive about being overweight,
Yes.
then you call them a fat pig, which
Yes.
Ed has never called me that. So
you
let me
ever
just
called him
clarify
that?
that right now.
Me that either.
But
You have never called Ed a fat pig?
never.
Why not? There were times when he was a fat pig.
Yeah, I've never known him to be a fat pig.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm just,
I have some pictures.
okay. But if that's your sensitive point,
Yes.
that's the word you use.
That's the word you use.
And that's why I think people use racial slurs instead of asshole, because asshole can apply to anybody, but you drill down and you find that
Did
sensitive
she say the
point.
whole word in church?
Hey, sorry.
I hear how you talk at home when you're mad.
That's what she said.
Oh, he said that too?
Well, he said AA.
Oh, and
But
you said that.
I said the word, I'm sorry.
And do you call Ed that when you're mad?
No.
You can tell me.
I really don't. We really try not to call names. We talk about behavior. You did that and that made me mad, but we don't call each other names.
You make a very good point too. That's why when you're born again of God, when you return to the Father, you're not moved by name calling. The words don't bother you. Overcome words. And that way the children of the lie can't manipulate you. They can't bring pain to you because you're no longer subject to words. I've been called, every day I'm called every name in the book and then some, but it just rolls off my back. It doesn't bother me at all because I know it's coming from the children of the lie. They can't help it. They literally cannot help it. And when blacks use, when white people use, as you said, that word toward blacks, they're only overreacting because they've been trained that way. They've been dumbed down and brainwashed, but they use it all day with one another, and it doesn't mean a thing. Even when they're angry at each other, they'll use it, but it still doesn't mean a thing. They only overreact when white people say it because they've been trained that way, like puppies. Roll over Big Tober. That's all it is. It's all a brainwashing thing. You could even be married to him as a white person, and you get along. As soon as you call the husband and wife have a fight, and that wife used that word, if she's white, it's over. Because they've been trained. They're not seeing what's going on. And that's why we got to break this string, break this hold that the children of the lie have on us. We can't continue to live this way because they're controlling us. They are controlling us, and we got to stop it. We are the light of the world and the salt of the earth. They are the darkness of the world and the destruction of the world. We are not, and we got to start acting like it. But if we don't get past these things, we're not going to be able to do it. Yes, sir. And then I think I saw a hand. Did I see your hand, Martin? No? Oh, okay. Yes, sir.
Nowadays, when a black is mad at a white, they just call them racist because that's like the N-word for white people.
Yeah. It sure is. It's worse than the N-word.
Yeah, because then you can destroy them.
Yeah.
Somebody who's a black is called the N-word, nothing's going to happen to them.
That's right. It's because white people have given over to this. And so they could call you anything they want to. They can make jokes about you on stage or whatever, and you have to grin and take it. But you can't do it to them. That's not fair. That's not right. And we should not be allowing this to happen. Let me go to Ed and then here. And then I want to read an excerpt from a letter that I got from a real close friend about this too. And she lays out some very interesting things that I want you to hear. And she's proven or trying to prove that racism exists in a minute here. But go ahead.
This thing you mentioned about training, we've been trained to act a certain way. That's what I see in corporate America. The HR departments train managers to act a certain way, to be offended when, in fact, no offense is intended.
That's right.
An example, as I mentioned before, is to speak Spanish to someone who is of a Hispanic background. They will be offended, and people watching will be encouraging them.
To them?
Right.
Really?
That actually happened to me twice.
So if you said,
Yeah.
habla, senor,
No, I offered, we finished a really
or
complicated.
you said, hola.
No, we finished a really complicated project, and a guy did well, and I said to him in Spanish, hey, congratulations, we did it, right? And, well, I don't want to use the guy's name. but
Right, don't use the name.
He used, his name was very anglicized, and I pronounced it in Spanish. The first name, let's just use a different name. John, for example, would be Juan, right?
Right.
And that was brought up by a vice president was in the same room and said, no, that's racist behavior. And all I did was like, we just finished something. I was like, good job. And it was great. It was a wonderful
Yeah,
moment. We just
that's
did
right.
something really well.
That's right.
And then it was suggested, that because this was a client, that I be banned from ever stepping foot in the client again. And then I had to explain to the guy, he said, you know, I'm third generation American. I said, well, cool. I'm not even first. My kids
right.
are first.
Yeah.
And that shook him, that stopped him from assuming what he did. I told him my first language was Spanish. I learned that before I learned English.
It's amazing
So
to
people
see.
are taught that all the way down in the organization in corporate America.
It's
to be that
amazing
way.
to see white people giving in to this. They don't understand that it's only going to get worse for them. It's just insane, and it's happening, and it's mind-blowing to see it.
Yep.
And you're going to take a black man to save the white man, in the same way the white president is saving the black man. See how the Lord switched it around? The white savior and the black savior. So I got this letter from a really good friend. It's not, and I'm reading this letter because I'm sure she's watching. It's not to try to degrade this person or put it down. I appreciate this. This is what friendship is all about, to try to help edify one another. So I see the letter in that way. But it's such a good letter, and she made some points because she believed that racism does exist. And so she made some points about that. Let me see, I just want to start with one or two paragraphs. So she saw me on Tucker show. And in the letter, in the body of the letter, she really liked the interview and stuff. But she said the most important point I want to make is that you got to stop saying that racism doesn't exist. It does. There is so much evidence to the contrary that any fair-minded individual has to discount the other information you give. If this is one of your pillar of belief, here are some examples of racism. It says, I really believe it doesn't. She's giving me some examples of racism. And I love these examples that she gave, because I think this is what most people are building this idea about racism are. So she said, well, where do I start? Number one, slavery. She said slavery is an example of racism, and that's not an example of racism. Who has not been enslaved? You know, it was a way of life back then, and then even in Africa, they're still enslaving. And if you doubt me, moving to a Muslim country, they'll put you in slavery as soon as you walk off the plane. So that's not an example. The Civil War. Isn't the Civil War that we had between the two states or something? Like the North and the South? But that wasn't about race. That was about, yeah, states' rights. Ideology. The Montgomery bus cart. Be quiet. You're not from this country. Don't be giving me the wrong information. Ideology. I'm up here looking crazy, and I'm trying to make a point, and a foreigner talking about ideology. Yeah, states' rights. You guys don't have mites and it.
Leftist propaganda to make you feel.
Oh, hold on.
Slavery.
That's what?
The Civil War was about the southern states' rights not to follow the federal government's instructions on how they sold or bought and traded.
And
then when Lincoln was losing
that.
the war, after he liberated the South, and they still kept slaves in the North, he said, well, what can we do to make this a heart-tugging issue? Yeah, it's about slaves. Yeah, we liberated slaves to justify all the people that died, but it was never about slavery.
Yeah,
both sides had slaves. So.
And there's something? Yeah. So I'll just read off the rest of these so we can get back. She said the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955-56 segregated toilets. Who wanted to use white people toilets anyway? Drinking fountain, schools, clubs, military service through World War II, housing, Jim Crow, the Jim Crow laws, Margaret Sanger, and her original intent of suppressing, in parentheses, aborting black birth rates, white supremacists, Black Lives Matter, Paula Deen, her use of the word, the N-word, Reverend Jeremiah Wright Jr., Obama's pastor, the Ku Klux Klan, Bill Clinton, famously told Ted Kennedy that Barack Obama would be giving us coffee a few years ago. And that's true. That's not racism, that's a reality. And something about the Dodgers. Al Campaign, who is that? Campains. Who is that guy? You don't know who he is, Baba Gunter guy?
Yeah.
Well, why are you just sitting there and saying nothing?
I was thinking of something else.
Oh. Who is he?
I believe he's a baseball.
Well, apparently he told, the Dodgers told Ted Copper on TV that blacks may not have some of the necessities to be, let's say, a field manager, or that blacks are often poor swimmers. And you all know I can't swim, right? I admitted that. I'm about to drown at my gym. So much that the white people are feeling sorry for me and try to help me.
It would be racist to rescue you.
And then she gave the example of somebody she knew who used a racist word or something about black people, and she has never forgotten that. But she put down all these things, and these things did happen, but it wasn't about racism. First of all, when blacks were living under the Jim Crow laws in the South, that was the government. All white people were not for that. There were white people who died so that those laws can end. There were Jews and other races of people who died. So if white people were in favor of those laws, why did they put their lives on the line like that? They knew that it was wrong. And so all of these things that happened came from a sense of judgment and anger. And in that fallen state, you tend to do crazy things and believe crazy things and act out on crazy things. God said that our battle is a spiritual battle, a warfare between good and evil, right versus wrong. Good versus evil, right versus wrong. Nothing that we deal with is physical. And if you get to know yourself, you're going to see that this battle that is happening within you. And then you want to blame someone else for it. You want to punish them for it. You want to take it out on them because you don't want, your ego doesn't want to die from it. But no one has anything to do with you. And they only have control over you if you give it to them. And anyone who blames someone else for what you're going through, you are allowing yourself to be controlled. That person or those people are controlling you. They are controlling you. Our battle is spiritual. It's not physical at all. And so the children of the lie who has made up this physical battle are lying to you, and they are lying to you because they want to use you. They want to put fear in you to stop you. They want to stop the light of the world. They want to stop God from being mentioned. And you're allowing this to happen by having this fear and then going along with it. Yeah, racism exists. And then the ones who accuse you of being racist, they never suffer for it. It's only you who suffer. Even when they use the word, the racist word, they don't suffer for it. Look what happened with Black Lives Matter. When they came about under Barack Obama, they were chanting dead cops and pig in the blanket. What did Obama do? He invited them to the White House. And the white cops suffered for it. And Black Lives Matter is worse than the KKK when it comes to being evil or as bad as they are. And so they were not punished for being hateful and evil toward white folks and white cops. They were rewarded. So the children of the lie reward one another, while the children of the light, they're fighting each other and they're afraid. Even if the children of the light should use the word, they are punished first by the children of the light before the children of the darkness will punish them. They'll jump on their own and help the light destroy them. I mean, help the darkness destroy them. Have you ever seen that happen? Yeah, it's crazy. You got to wake up. This is not real. It's a lie. It's about good or evil. And we got to call it as it is. And I know that a lot of people, because I know a lot of people believe that now because we've been hearing it so many years and no one has pulled away to find out, is this true or not? If we were going to solve the problem of racism, 8 years of Barack Obama would have allowed us to solve it. But it's worse now, especially under him, than it ever been. Because it's a lie, it's destructive, it doesn't exist. It's a spiritual battle. And black people are not suffering because of this word, those who are suffering. They are suffering because the destruction of the family, they don't have the love of the father, and they have the anger of the mothers in them, and they have not overcome that anger, and they are passing it on to white folks because that's what they've been told. And we got to stop being afraid to say this. Otherwise, it's only going to get worse. It doesn't exist. It's a moral issue. Either you are a moral human being or you're immoral. It has nothing to do with your color. The lady in the black right there. What do you think about this?
Oh, not too much.
You're not thinking too much about it?
No.
Why not?
Because pretty much it's like you said. I agree with you. So, on a lot of the points that you're saying.
I'm sorry?
As I agree with you on a lot of the things that you are saying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I used to think that racism existed. Once I moved down out here to LA, I started listening to the crap that came from the so-called leadership. And then they were being respected in the media and in different locations. So I thought they were telling the truth in my fallen state of anger. But once God took away the anger, I was able to see, and I didn't think I would ever see that there was no such thing as racism. That wasn't on my mind. But I was able to see it's not racist, it's spiritual. And once he returned me back to him, he allowed me to see that even when my enemy attacked me, it's not about me, it's not personal, it's their hatred of what is right. They don't care about me, it's not about me. So now I can have compassion for them. I can speak the truth and hope that they'll be helped and not hold a grudge because I know they can't help it, they're living in darkness. We got to start acting this way. We got to, don't believe these people. Because whatever you believe in controls you. We live by faith. And whomever or whatever you believe in control you. It's the way it is. So if you believe this lie, you're going to be ruled by this lie. And most white people are ruled by it, and most black people are. You can have a good white friend, and the moment they say something you don't like, if it makes you angry, that white friend automatically become a racist in your mind. They automatically become that way because you've fallen out of the light into this anger. That's why you got to overcome the anger. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I can say this. That's not an arena that I like to entertain my mind. And so like when things happen, that's not where my mind goes to automatically. But I have been in situations where other people have been around and something has happened, and then, they would take me aside and say, oh, they're just racist. And I would like,
yeah.
So that's not a go-to thing. As a matter of fact, so whatever happened, to me, is just another reason. So let's look for another reason that's not so, that's not such a hot topic, and see if we can get to the bottom of the problem, and so that we can both get what we want.
That's right.
So it's like, okay, I want this, and I've run into, a molehill or whatever, and so I have to figure out a way to get around it.
That's right.
And so I don't think dealing with thinking racist things is going to help me get to where I want to go. So I'm actually not the best person to talk about this, you know. So, but I could tell you the way I think on it and like the way I deal with certain things. So
when you have that mentality, though, in this state of anger, you that's the first thing Satan tell you. Oh, this white person doing this to you because of race, and then you just blurt it out, and then they're stunned by the fact that you're thinking that, because that's not what they're thinking. They're just disagreeing or not doing it because it's just not happening. But Satan tell you that, and so you believe what Satan tell you, and so you think the person is thinking what you're thinking, and they're not thinking what you're thinking. But that's what happens in that fallen state. And it happens in every area of life where you have anger. Do you, everybody understand this? Is it clear, Ed, that there is no racism?
Much clearer.
Give me the mic.
It's a lot clearer. I haven't had anybody blast me and test how good my knowledge is right now. But
yeah.
I mean, in this forum here, it's clear.
And I hope it gives you the courage to start standing up and fighting for good, defeating evil. Even if it's blacks and whites together, Hispanics together, we got to fight together against evil, like they fight together to destroy good. It's not about your color. It's not about male or female. It's right versus wrong. And once you return to the Father by dropping your anger, you're going to see clearly what I'm talking about. It's not about your color at all. But we have put up with this for too long. We've allowed this to happen, and it's getting worse, and it's time to end it. Because now they're corrupting the minds of young people who have no reason to be feeling this way. None whatsoever, but the young people are not hearing another point of view. They're not hearing another, so the white kids are growing up with fear, and the black kids are growing up radical. And in this battle, and in short, I'm starting to hear a battle, and I don't know all of it, so I can't get into it yet. As I learn, I will talk about it. But I'm starting to hear more and more younger white people blaming the Jews for their problems. Are you starting to hear that a little bit more? Well, maybe because I'm out there in the media and stuff. And that should not be happening, because you're going to end up in the same hole that the black people ended up in. Really, you're going to end up in the same ditch. Anytime you blame someone else as an adult for your problems, you end up in a ditch. You really do. You get nowhere. Okay, let me take James first. Here. I think I saw somebody else. Forgive me.
I have an on-topic and an off-topic.
Okay.
The on-topic one is like the dictionary definition of racism is believing that one race is superior to another.
Right.
But the people who accuse others of racism believe they're superior to the racists.
Right. So it's interesting too, very good point. Like the blacks are called the white supremacy, right? And that means that whites are better, right? In their mind.
That whites think they're better and impose on blacks.
Right. And then, but on the other hand, they say what black people were first on earth, and everybody came from them. So isn't that black supremacy? Isn't it? So like, so you're accusing somebody of what you're thinking. That's what's going on. If I think I'm the first on earth and everybody came from me, you know I'm going to walk around my chest puffed out. And then accuse you so you don't ever think you're better than me. Isn't that right? We got to wake up to this, folks, please. It's spiritual. Get to know yourself and you will understand what I'm talking about. And all this stuff that happened in the past, it was just evil people doing evil things to each other. That's all it was. Good folks didn't do this stuff, no matter what the color was. I have a cousin, he was going on and on about this. And he was like, yes, there is racism. The white man used to call us boy. And he said, you know that because we grew up in the same area. I said, you know what? I have never heard a white man call me a boy. And I hadn't. Never heard that. He's like, no, you're lying. And I said, so the white man called you boy while growing up? And then he was like, he paused for a while. He's like, but no, they didn't call me boy. But I just saw how they treated my father. And they didn't even hear him. I said, so did they call you father boy? No, but I just saw how my father acted around them. So he's up here lying. And see, if that went out there in the world, they'll be using that, the children of the lie. See, they call him boy in Alabama. He never had nobody to call him boy, but his mama. Boy, you better go sit down. Ain't that something? This is how lies get out. He's brainwashed and he's thinking things that did not happen. I remember when I protested once or twice or so in the civil rights movement, and when I look back on that, I wasn't angry. I just went out there because it was fun. All the kids together, you know, we were out there protesting, having fun. I had no anger about anything. Well, not about that for sure. And it wasn't like I couldn't sit on the bus because there were no buses, just a school bus. There's only black people on that bus, so you can sit wherever you want. So I didn't have all that going on. My cousin didn't either. But in his mind, he did, until he paused to think about it. Ain't that something? I'm just trying to get you to wake up. Yes.
Okay, this is the off-topic question.
Okay.
Escada is asking, is it possible to sever your conscience? Meaning, separate yourselves entirely from having a conscience.
Yes. You can destroy the mind of God. You can reject it so much with so much evil until he and Jesus just go and relax and let Satan be your father. And that's why I want you to wake up before you get too deep in darkness. All common sense will just go out of the window. And then you become a son or daughter of the devil. You only have his mindset. Yes, sir. You can lose it completely. And if you look around, you see evidence of it already happening to other people. They are pure evil with no conscience. As a matter of fact, people with our Planned Parenthood, when they were aborting the unborn child and selling the parts, the baby body part, that's pure evil. How can you do that to a human being and feel nothing about it and then sit up and have coffee and just talk about it like it was nothing? That's pure evil. So yes, let me move a little faster here. Here, and somewhere over there I saw a hand. Yes, sir.
Oh. Going back to your question, like you were saying earlier about Jews, when I was younger, I heard from people and on the internet that Jews are trying to take over the world, they control the media, and they want to destroy the United States.
Yeah. When I was growing up, we were taught, because of Judaism, we have Christianity, and that we should love the Jews and love Israel, right. And that's what I have in my heart. Yeah. And plus, I don't have that anger, so I'm not blaming it. If the Jews are ruling everything, I'm going to kiss up at the Jews to try to find out how do y'all do this? Exactly. Tell me how you did it. I'm not going to get mad at them and don't get the information. You know what I'm saying? Right. That doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make. I'm going to get with the smart people and find out how they did it, not be jealous of them. But any adults who are doing this are jealous and weak and pathetic. You really are, because even if that's true, it's not the Jews' fault that you allowed it to happen. Where were you at? Where were you at? Where were you? Why were you so weak you just allowed another group to take over everything? I would be trying to examine myself to see what happened to me. I'm not going to be mad at you because you're doing well and I'm not. And so now I'm going to blame you for controlling everything. You know what I mean? Yeah. The blacks did that with the whites and the Jews and the Hispanics and the Asians and the Japanese. Anyone who moved into their communities, set up shop and did well, rather than learning from them, they became jealous and ran them off. Rob from them, kill them, rape them, do all kind of madness. Right here.
So you're saying we should wake up, but if we've been fed these lies for so long, how are we supposed to know when we're being lied to?
By getting to know yourself, keep your eyes on yourself so you can return to the Father, and all things will be revealed to you. You will start to live by common sense. And that's what Christ came for, to usher in common sense. And that's why he rejected his ego, the ego temptation when they came, because he wanted to reinstate common sense, which is the light of God in us, right? So we can live by common sense. And it's not common sense to think that our battle is a physical battle. It's not common sense to think that it's based on your skin color. It's insane. And I noticed that right now the children of the lie, they're using that racist word so much now, it's not even funny. All the liberal politicians are using it because they're trying to get blacks wired up, so they'll act crazy and hoping that they can get the power back, the Democratic Party.
So don't believe anything until you feel like it's revealed to you that it's true.
Yes, sir.
So nothing unless it's revealed to you. So nothing.
Always, but always, always, always let that loud voice outside of you and inside of you go in one ear and out the other. Don't doubt it and don't believe it, and then you should hear from the voiceless voice. Absolutely. Let them say it, but don't believe it, and don't doubt it. Just let it go in one. You'll see how crazy they are. That make sense? Good question. I think I saw your hand, right? Did I see? Wait. Wait. Did I see your hand?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, words have like different meaning. That's the tricky part about it. So when people discuss things, they can be talking about two different things, but use the same word. So when you say racism, I was thinking stereotyping, whereas I'm starting to understand that you mean more like discrimination as racism.
Based on color.
Right.
And we all discriminate. Everybody discriminate. Everybody in this room this morning discriminated before you got here. You decided to go down Pico rather than go down Olympic.
Do you not think that we stereotype by skin color? We stereotype people?
No. Racism is purely based on your color, they say.
On your color.
Color.
So do not people assume a certain person is a certain way because of his skin color?
Yeah, I remember Jesse Jackson said once that when he's walking down the road by himself and he hears men behind him, that he feels a sense of release when he look around and see that they're white men rather than black. And so what he's basing that on is that the black anger and the black violence and the black lack of respect for one another and others is out of control. So it made him even afraid when he's walking down the road. So that's not based on the skin color, but this is a group of people that you know for the most part are out of control.
It's cultural.
Right, cultural, that's the word.
And the thing is to...
Let him have a microphone.
But it's like, it's cultural, but also people are different by culture and the skin color, you know? So certain skin color inherits certain kind of culture, and the other skin color inherits another kind of culture. So
no, that is that. Wait, hold on. That is, and in love, I'm telling you, that is ignorance to genetics. Your genes, your race is not in your skin color or your country you were born in. That's your nationality, and that's a secondary characteristic of your genes. Your race, you could only be 5 races. There are only 5 races, and they have nothing to do with skin color. It's in your skull. It's in your bones. It's in your DNA. There's no way, everyone here is most likely a Caucasian, regardless of what color they are. And that's that's up there. But you've been programmed to say, well, he's Armenian and the Turk next door, but you probably came from the same ancestor in the same town that just lives on this side of the border and that side of the border. Or the black guy, people like Vin Diesel, he's got light skin, but he's not white, right?
No, I understand what you mean.
You understand?
Yeah.
So,
you know, I got to end, but Martin Luther King Jr. said to the black people during the so-called civil rights movement, you got to overcome evil with good. Yes, you have endured injustice, but don't hate it. Overcome it with good, meaning don't hate. Make sure the laws are changed when we're all protected by the same laws, but don't hate. And then once he was assassinated, the hustlers took over the children of evil, Jesse Jackson, all those people, and they taught hate. They named it racism. They named it hate. And then they took the fathers away from the family, which made the kids and the women subject to this word hatred, and it's just been downhill ever since. That's how all this stuff came about for the most part. Because of that, we've been lied to. And so I hope, and thank you, really, I do appreciate this letter. It really, really got me to thinking. And I like the way you laid out all those things that can prove, quote unquote, that racism exists. But it doesn't exist. It has never existed. And don't take my word for it, like what Joel was saying. Let it go in one ear and then out the other one so you can see it for yourself. And when it's revealed to you, then you can stand up against the lie. So just don't take it just because I said it. The only way I know it, because it was revealed that it's the spiritual. And the Bible says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spirits and principalities and wickedness and evil and demons in high places. Our battle is not physical. It's really not at all. And if you knew this, no one else can ever get you angry. They can't control you. You have compassion for your fellow man. You pray for your enemy rather than hate him, but you got to see it for yourself. All right? And the way to see it, you got to overcome the ego. You got to drop the anger. Because that is of your father, the devil. And in that is fear and doubt and worry and insecurity and all that stuff. There's no love and anger at all. It's a blindness. You fall to a different state of mind and you see things in the wrong way. You got to rise above that in consciousness, the mind of God. All right? Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. It was so good. I hope that just helped a little bit. And again, get to know yourself. Then you can see what's really going on around you, and you can see who is putting this lie out there and trying to control you, and other lies as well. It's all spiritual. We need your financial support. All right, we need your financial support. And for those who are tuning into the radio show tomorrow, we're going to do the best of, but we're doing a live TV show with Francis and Friends. We're back on her show again. That's going to be good. So you can still watch it from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and whatever other time you're in, time zone. All right? So you can tune in live tomorrow. What else? We need your money. We need your help. And thank you all for coming. I hope that helped a little bit. All right.